Hello everyone. In this video, we are going to practice checking our work after doing a division problem. And before we check our work, we want to think about dividing and how we can check our division problem. So let's start with a simple problem. If we were going to do 14 divided by 2, we know that the answer is 7. A great way to check your work is to use your fact families, to use the opposite operation. An operation in this case is division. So if we're dividing 14 by 2, we can use our fact families and do the opposite, so which means we can multiply. So if we use the same three numbers, we can use multiplication to also check our work. So what I like to do is take my quotient, my answer, which is 7, and times it by my other factor, in this case 2. Okay, that was the divisor in the problem. So 7 times 2 equals 14. Okay, so my dividend divided by my divisor divided by my quotient. Okay, that's your math language. So if I go in reverse, I can take my answer, 7, times it by 2, and it gives me back to my original number of 14. So that's a simpler problem. But what if we had a remainder? Because this problem we have a remainder. Does it still work? It sure does. So let's say I have 14 divided by 3, which would equal what? Well, how many 3's go into 14? Well, 3 times 4 is 12. 3 times 5 is 15. 5's too many. So 3 times 4 would give me 12. But that means I would have a remainder of 2 left over. Let's watch how this will still work. So if we divide it, let's do the opposite. So let's multiply. Let's take our quotient, our answer, 4. Whoops, wrong spot. Let me click back down here. So let's take our quotient, our answer of 4, times it by our divisor, what we divided by, so 3. That gives us 12. Wait a minute, 12 is not the same as 14. Right, because I need to add my remainder. So if I did 4 times 3 was 12, and I added my leftover pieces, which was plus 2, that would get me back to my original dividend, my original number that I was dividing by. Because 3 does not go into 14 evenly, I would get 4 equal groups with 2 parts left over. So when you're checking your work with division and there's a remainder, you multiply your answer, your whole number answer, and then you add your remainder. So the same thing should work for our original problem, which was 720 divided by 7. We came up with the answer, the quotient of 106, or excuse me, 102 with a remainder of 6. So if we check our work, that means I should be able to take this 102. Okay, I need to write it in the right spot. There we go. 102 times 7, that was the number I divided by, going to equal something, right? Then what I need to do is take that something and add my remainder 6. So instead of doing this in our head because it's a bigger problem, let's do it over in this spot. So I like to put my smaller number on the bottom. So let's put it right here, 7. Okay. And let's see. Let's go to 7 times. And let's see, what was our number? 102. So 102. Okay. So now let's do our problem. What is 7 times 2? Well, 7 times 2 is 14. 7 times 0 is 0, plus my 1 is 1. And then 7 times 1 is 7. Okay, so my answer here would be 700. And if you remember, I need to now add my 6 left over, my remainder of 6. So let's do our R6 here. And we're adding that, right? So what is 4 plus 6? Well, that's 10. So my 0 would be here. That would be turned to a 1 and a 1, which is a 2. And then 7 plus nothing is 7. So 720, which was the original number I started with, my dividend, the number I was dividing. So here I would put 714 plus 6, and that equals 720, which is the original number I started with. So because I used my fact families and multiplied to check my work and then added my remainder, I came up with the same number that I started with when I divided. That is how you check your work when you multiply in adding your remainder.